All right, we are going to get started. So first of all, thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to attend AWS Startup Day here in New York City. Quick introduction. My name is Mackenzie Kosut. I'm the Global Startup Evangelist for Amazon Web Services. And part of my job is to go around and meet with hundreds of startups globally, provide technical guidance, mentorship, business advice, and more, but also capture those stories and share them out through lots of our different channels at Amazon. A little background about myself. Before I started at Amazon, I worked at a large number of startups you probably recognize from here in New York City. This includes Tumblr, helping to grow and scale it to about 20 billion page views a month. That was on a physical hardware in a data center. I don't recommend anybody ever attempt that. Nightmare to try to do. One of the founding engineers at Oscar Health Insurance, so helping to grow and build an insurance company in about 3 months. And more recently at Betterment, which is the world's largest independent robo-advisor. And I'm pretty excited because two of these companies are here, two of the leaders from these companies are here to help share some of their best practices and guidance, and you'll hear from them later on today. But I'm really excited to be working at Amazon just because of how many startups we get to interact with and help grow over time. In fact, there's more startups on AWS than any other platform. So whether you're fighting a cure cancer with Flatiron Health, whether you're using like Vivino to look up like the latest wine you want to drink and what the ratings are, or whether you want to build like a really nice simple website beautifully using Wix, there's no shortage of interesting challenges where customers are using AWS to solve them today. And from like an engineering perspective, what really interests me is as clouds kind of evolved and new services and features get released, so has how startups are building. So this is kind of charting out the last 10 years or so of new services and features we've had at AWS. And I've highlighted some of the key features down below that came out during that year. So for example, you look at something like Kinesis in 2013. To try to do a large amount of streaming data and processing at scale, to build on your own would have been really tough. Today we have customers like Supercell, major gaming company out of the Nordics, and they're doing about 50 billion events a day through Kinesis, and that's billion with a B. There's no team managing it. It's just a service that's fully hosted and managed by AWS for them. It's letting them focus on building better games and better experiences for their customers and not trying to scale out this underlying infrastructure. Or you look at like 2015 when Elastic Container Service came out. This helps companies like Nextdoor really improve the development time by about 10x. So you can get a new feature out in less amount of time and give their developers access to exactly the same type of infrastructure and application that's running in production. So it's really helping customers build much better applications with less amount of resources. And this is one of my favorite quotes from Jeff Bezos, but in short, no matter what size company you are, and we experience this at Amazon too, no matter what idea you have, there's always going to be that undifferentiated heavy lifting involved to get that idea to market. And that undifferentiated heavy lifting are things like servers, storage, database, compute, search. These are all basic elements that every company has. So the more time you're focused managing that and building it and scaling it, the less you're focused on what's important, and that's on your product. The cool thing is that many of these heavy lifting, boring infrastructure pieces fall within the realm of the AWS services we have. It's almost about 100 different services to date, and this is kind of a high-level overview. Everything from entire IoT platforms to mobile development platforms to remote workstations, whatever you need, these are all the essential building blocks to start building quicker. And so that's why we've seen a really big trend in what it takes to get an idea or a startup off the ground. So out of curiosity, how many people here work at like a company that's under 10 employees? And then over 10? Excellent. So resources are at like a premium right now. The ability to do more with less means that your runway will last longer. You have a better chance for success. In 2017, we're seeing people launch ideas with just $5,000, a single engineer, and basically a case of ramen to live off of. But you can do it, and that's amazing. You know, 5 years ago, or back in 2005, that $5 million would go towards physical hardware and basically a team to manage that for you. An example of someone doing a lot with a little is this guy, Alan Richard, who I met in London about 2 months ago. He's the single employee and founder of a company called singlebox.ai. And this is his home office in an apartment somewhere in London. And I guarantee he probably has the highest electrical bill in the entire neighborhood. But what he was able to build is a self-service platform where people like universities, oil companies, financial institutions are coming, providing data, and you can drag and drop and basically apply these deep learning networks to this data very easily. And you look at how complex something like this is to build, and again, this is one person and what they're able to accomplish. So truly, that analogy of $5 million to 5,000 couldn't be more true today. But since we work with so many customers every day, we understand that it takes more than just building on a really robust, scalable, reliable infrastructure to get an idea to be successful. There's a lot of additional challenges that we're all going to face, whether it's understanding how funding works, understanding how to approach hiring, how to do marketing on a budget, and more. And the more that we can educate and help you all solve these, the more likely you are to succeed with your idea. And that's really what this day is about. So you'll notice it's different than most of our AWS events. Traditionally, we have events which are focused really on AWS technologies and services. This is focused on all the additional challenges you're going to face. If you are interested in more in-depth talks on specifically AWS offerings, we have free workshops, boot camps, and more that happen right here in this building. And so we're in the AWS Loft. If you've never been here before, this is a free resource to anyone who's an Amazon customer. You can come here, it's a co-working space, and there's also solution architects sitting at a bar upstairs. So if you get stuck on a problem or have a question, they'll help walk you through how to re-architect something. So we gathered some really phenomenal experts across all different areas. And you'll have the opportunity to hear from all of them today, and also ask questions, right? Because again, this day is really about you. You all have questions about certain problems you're facing within your product, your company, your industry. And together with this collective of knowledge, we're hoping to help answer those for you today. In addition to these outside experts, we also have many of our internal experts. So a lot of people don't know that we have a team at Amazon called the Amazon Startup Business Development Team. This is a global team, and they are all former entrepreneurs, VCs, and have intimate experience with building companies. Many of them are serial entrepreneurs. And from a high level, just looking at the numbers, this is what they're comprised of. You can see they have many experience helping many companies IPO, grow, and succeed. And they're here to help your company. So if you have business-related questions, you want to hear how we would approach it from the Amazon perspective, or what experience we have that might be applicable to your situation, talk to us. Is Jacob here, by the way? Jacob's in the back here. One other thing I want to mention is if you are a funded company and you haven't gotten free credits from us, go talk to that guy. He will give you free money. Or if you have an idea that you're thinking about launching, he'll also give you free money. But those are the only two conditions. In short, we want you the big takeaway is that we're more than just infrastructure. And we understand these challenges, and we want to share as much as we can to help you guys out. So the day is really broken down into 2 tracks. There's a business track that's going to be happening down here, and here's the agenda. Includes fireside chats, panels, and some presentations. And upstairs are some operations tracks. And again, you notice that it's not specific to AWS. It's operational stuff, right? For example, microservices. Are they right for you? When should you start thinking about them? Or what about production readiness review? How do you know that your product, your new feature is ready to go out to production? What processes and measures, and what can you think about to help minimize your risk and reduce errors? Or most importantly, don't overspend. One thing you'll notice at Amazon is we really want you to be cost conscious. We have things like trusted advisors who will tell you where you can save money and reduce your spends. So if you're interested in doing that, please attend one of these sessions. And I want to talk very briefly on the topic of AI, because not only is it a really cool topic, but it's really applicable to a lot of companies. So clearly, AI is being used across almost every industry, whether it's autonomous vehicles, AI assistants, genome sequencing, financials. Every industry in some way is trying to dabble into this. And we at Amazon have basically a 20-year history building with AI. In fact, it's really part of our heritage. We have thousands of researchers who have been building machine learning, deep learning for many years. It started way back at Amazon.com, being able to search and find similar searches. And when we were doing it back then, it was just called algorithms, and now it has all these fancy terminologies and names. But of course, that's led to things like Amazon Echo. You think about how much deep learning technology goes into natural language processing and understanding. It's a tremendous amount of research. But it doesn't stop there. We have many parts of our business that are driven by AI. You look back at 2003, and this is one of my favorite videos if it plays. No, is it not playing? Hang on. This is the best. No, you're going to kill me. So if you haven't seen this, this is a Kiva robot. I would act it out for you. It's probably not going to be as good as the video, but instead I'll tell you what happens. So you think about how many orders we get fulfilled at Amazon every day. And to have workers do that manually, it just does not scale at the volume we deal with. So in 2003, Kiva, which eventually turned into Amazon Robotics, was developed. And these robots will go out into the warehouse floor. They'll get an order dispatched to them, and they will find the shelf that contains the item. You'll do a little corkscrew move, lift that shelf up, and bring it to the front of the warehouse where a package worker is there. And they will pick the item, scan it, and then the Kiva robot automatically returns that shelf to the most optimal location, then goes and charges. And once it's fully charged, it'll wait for the next order to be dispatched. And so if you look at this warehouse over time, the entire floor is just shifting and changing. And I'm sorry the video is not working, but go Google it. It's one of my favorite videos to look at. And of course, the AI has led to other areas too. So you may have seen Amazon Prime Air. This is an initiative we started about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And it's the idea that we want to deliver a 5-pound package within 30 minutes to your doorstep. And this is an actual video of a real delivery that occurred over in the UK. And you just think about depth sensing, object avoidance, all sorts of requirements from a technology perspective to make something like this happen. But what if you take a lot of similar technologies used in, for example, self-driving cars, such as computer vision, sensor fusion, deep learning, and you apply it in a whole different way? And that's where you get Amazon Go, which launched about 1 year ago. And these stores are in beta currently in Seattle. And it's the idea you can walk into a store, pick an item up off the shelf, and just walk out. And we'll automatically know what items you have on your possession. We'll send you a bill, we'll charge you, and there's no lines, no waiting, no checkout. And it's a very seamless shopping experience. In short, the 20 years of building AI means that we know what it takes to take an idea and get it to reality, building with this types of technology. So what does that mean for you as a customer? Well, that means that we know what tools are essential for you to work on those ideas. That's why we have a really rich ecosystem of different offerings to build with. So whether you want to work with higher level AI services based on deep learning, such as recognition, Poly, and Lex, or if you want really just the raw compute power and EC2 instances with GPUs, so you can start building your own services using a large number of deep learning frameworks. We allow a single-click deployment to have access to all of these frameworks, and we'll give you the Jupyter notepads you can start building. On top of that, maybe you have general purpose machine learning needs. So there are a wide number of offerings like Spark and Spark ML or Amazon Machine Learning and EMR. I'm going to talk very quickly about some of these. The first is the higher level. So one that's really cool out of here is Amazon Lex. And what Lex is it's the same underlying technology that Amazon Echo is built on. When you talk to your Echo and you say, hey, Echo, what's the current weather? Lex is that same network that is understanding the intent and converting that to an action that's running somewhere in your infrastructure. So in this example, you could say, hey, Echo, what's the weather? Lex will get that. It'll then match it to, in here, for example, it's using a Lambda function to fetch the local weather. That comes back in just simple text, and you can use something like Poly that will speak out, it will be sunny and 25 degrees Celsius. So we've given the power of the echo to you, the developers, so you can start building all sorts of nice interactions with your customers. But not only does it do voice, it also does chatbots and chat interfaces. So you can build one interface with Lex and have natural language conversations with your customers, and then provide that to them in not only a chat interface, but also a voice interface. It's a lot of fun to play with, and it's super simple. A lot of people ask, well, yeah, text-to-speech has been around forever, but how good is it really? And you think about an area where text-to-speech is, the pronunciation of the words is super important, and that's when you're teaching a new language to somebody else. Duolingo, which is the world's largest platform and app for learning new languages, used to have a process of hiring actors and actresses to speak these lessons. And they would get recording time in the studio, and they would have to record this audio, have these massive media files, clean up the audio, then find ways to distribute that through a content distribution network. It took, that's okay. This is gonna, yes, okay. It took many weeks, if not months, to get a new lesson plan out to their customers. So when Poly came around, they said, well, what if we just use text-to-speech? So today, around the world, there are millions of people who are learning new languages from a machine that's all speaking off of a neural network. They're able to add different, correct the pronunciation of certain words to make it just right for each one of their regions. And so it just blows my mind that there are people who are learning from machines how to speak English without any humans actually recording those plans. The next is machine learning. Right? There's a lot of good applications of this. And so with the Amazon Machine Learning Service, you get out of the box a lot of supervised learning algorithms that you can use for multiple situations. So the most common one is binary classification. A good example of that is this a hot dog or not? Totally handles it beautifully. But of course, multi-category classification. Like based on this item, is this a dog, elephant, or rabbit? Or is this a book, piece of clothing, or a music item? But also regression, which is where we see a lot of usage of machine learning today. You know, based on historical data, how likely is it that something's going to happen in the future? A good example is based on the weather here in New York, how likely will it be warm tomorrow? And based on today's climate, that's really hard to say because the weather is all over the place here in New York City. So all these models come out of the box with Amazon Machine Learning. So you can very quickly pump your data into it and start looking at interesting results. And a company that did that is Cree, who is a doctor-on-demand service out of Stockholm. And Cree services 1% of all the primary care doctor visits in the entire country of Sweden. And how it works is you very quickly just say, I want to talk to a doctor, and you start providing your symptoms. Well, they used to have a problem of having this massive list of symptoms. If I have a cough, it's very unlikely I also have a broken toe. And so they took all of the symptoms and put it through Amazon Machine Learning to find relatable symptoms. So now as you pick one condition, it'll show you, it'll sort it based on how likely it is to have a similar condition. So it's kind of speeding up that process of getting access to a doctor and making it easier for the customer not to have to scroll through that list of 20 million WebMD possible conditions you might have. Of course, a lot of people are rolling their own offerings, basically building their own neural networks. And there's a lot of different frameworks to be building with today. You know, everything from MXNet to TensorFlow to Caffe. And so we have a one-click deep learning AMI. So if you're interested, there's great blog posts and videos. With one click, you have all of these frameworks deployed onto one machine, including the Jupyter Notebook, so you can start playing with this and going through some of the lessons. So there's no need to build your own machine from scratch and start setting up all of these frameworks. Company that has been kind of playing with this, which is really cool, is a company called Too Simple, who's about 2 years old now. They're headquartered in Beijing, and they also have an office, I think, in San Diego. They want to take on autonomous driving, but they didn't want to just do cars. They want to do the more challenging thing, which is autonomous freight trucks or 18-wheelers or lorries or whatever you want to call them. And the reason why this is way more difficult for large vehicles is, one, the maneuverability of these trucks is it's much less nimble for one of these trucks to navigate than a sporty car. The second is that a lot of the technology around autonomous vehicles today is built using LiDAR. And LiDAR is great for a car who has great braking, great handling, but if you have a massive truck, you need longer visibility. And LiDAR is capped at about 80 meters for distance and what it can see. So what they use is they built these millimeter wave units, and there's 3 of them across the top. They combined them with these HD cameras on top of the vehicle. So they actually can see forward about 200 meters. So these trucks can drive at a much safer condition. They know their surroundings because they can see so much further ahead. And to show you what this looks like and what the machine sees, so on the left, you see identifying cars and objects. But on top of that, low lighting condition is one of the most challenging pieces of autonomous vehicles today. Shadows, when you have sunsets hitting and casting weird shadows on the road or going through tunnels. But because you have those array sensors and because you're combining it with these HD cameras, it's picking up everything in very low light conditions. And these trucks are actually on the road today, I think, between California and Arizona. And you can read about it in the news. But it's all built using Apache MXNet. And on board, this is able to actually look at real-time HD video feed and do what's known as per pixel object segmentation. So it's able to look at this, and in real time, it's seeing exactly where that road is. Every single pixel in that live video feed is accounted for. So if you have a head that's just barely popping up above a car, it's going to see that and start trying to identify it. And yeah, someone might have painted the road green, but I assure you this is actually the machine doing this. It's real. And one of the other thing that they're currently working on is in the vehicle identification system. The ability to take just, and you can play with this today, you can take a picture of a car from any angle, upload it to their system, and it'll identify the make, model, year of that vehicle. So think about how much safer that car can drive if it knows that, hey, there's a sporty car to the right of me, but a really slow car with terrible handling and braking to the left of me. You can start making smarter, or the machine can start making smarter calculations on what it should be doing in that situation. So it's pretty cool. One big announcement from last week is announcement of Gluon. This is a big partnership we have with Microsoft. So Microsoft has a very large research team for AI, as does Amazon. And we got together and we realized that all these deep learning frameworks are fantastic, but it takes a lot of knowledge and expertise and training to get really good at it. And traditionally, in order to build one of these models, you basically define it and it's set in stone. And to make changes to it over time is very time consuming and tedious. What Gluon does is it's an API that sits across all of the frameworks that are out there, all the main ones. And they give you, or we give you basically the essential building blocks of what it takes to build one of these deep learning networks. And we'll handle interacting with those frameworks down below. On top of that, it allows dynamic graphs. So dynamically, you can create new models, which means you can train these much faster. You get all of these benefits without any impact to performance. So if you're interested in building with deep learning, I would highly recommend looking at Gluon. It's an open source project you can see on GitHub. Totally worth checking out. But in short, no matter what you're trying to build, there's an offering out there that fits your need. Again, whether or not you want to just have something off the shelf or whether you want to roll your own. It's a very rich list of offerings. And it's basically why today there's more AI running on AWS than any other platform. In fact, I couldn't even fit all the logos on here. So this is the second slide here. So everyone from like Toyota Racing, NASA, Netflix, the list goes on. The last company I want to talk about is this really cool company I met last week in Belgium called Sentience. And they take basically simple IoT data, just telemetry data of just movement. And they are able to pull a lot of interesting insights out of it. And they start to make predictions. So if they see you walking and you went to work, you went to your car, they can start making predictions on how likely it is you're going to now go shopping, go walking, or go home. And there's a really cool free service you can play with that they have. So you can start playing with their systems and kind of seeing what insights are pulled out of it. But it's really pretty cool. So there's a timeline of an individual and all the different things that they were doing. And this is just based on moving, and that's it. So with all of this, the reason why it's so important to talk about is it enables you to build much smarter applications. right? Applications that can speak, they can listen, they can see, you can talk to it, and they can understand what you're saying. And when you combine that together with all the other services that are out there today that we offer, you can build some really engaging applications and experiences for your customers. The last couple of resources I want to leave you with is one, the AWS Hot Startups. This is on the main AWS blog. So every month we feature startups around the globe of the challenges they're facing, the industries they're disrupting, and how they're doing it. So definitely check that out. Second, how many people here went to the New York Summit? So traditionally, people thought of the New York Summit as enterprise focused. We're doing a lot more for startup audiences, for the earlier stage companies there. In San Francisco, for example, this is Mapbox. They're doing a talk on how they're processing petabytes of mapping data using ECS. You'll see more and more presentations and talks more focused towards the startup audience. So please take a look at the agenda coming up for the next New York Summit and consider attending. There's a lot of good people to meet. And again, a lot of talks targeted towards you, the early stage startups. Also, AWS Startups Twitter, if you're not following it, please follow it. Really great interviews with VCs and entrepreneurs, startup spotlights, and more. And I also run a program called Startups on Air. So if you're curious on seeing what startups are doing around the world, we do live interviews, which you can interact and ask questions with these founders and technical leads and engage with them just through live Twitter video. So that's it for kind of my opening. Again, I want to welcome you here.